All right, Don. So we're actually going to be previewing two players in this video because both of them made the top 10 of our list, and that is Notre Dame's defensive tackle duo of Rylie Mills and Howard Cross III, who are both phenomenal players. Mills checked in at number 10 on our list. Howard Cross III checked in at number 3 of our list. Let's start with Mills first, Dalton. What makes Rylie Mills such a really good player and a top 10 T tackle in the country, in your opinion?
Yeah, this was such a fun pair to watch because you've got two really, really different players as well. They're both really good. They're both really different. We'll start with Mills, 6'5" and 300 pounds. And honestly, one of those lunch pail defensive linemen, just workman-like attitude who brings the same consistent effort week in and week out. He's top 20 across the board in all pass rush stats. He's a really good run defender. And honestly, you watch him and you go, he's 6'5", he's 300, he's big and he's long. Okay. And then I'm like, he's a sneaky athlete too,
yeah.
Max. A 92.2 PFF game athleticism score rating. He's got a little bit of everything at his size. It's deceptive speed, the serious length. When he gets his arms extended on you, he's a problem. He can reach out and chase down quarterbacks with the best of them. He's got a little, that's what I across the board. I don't know if I would give him an A+ in any single trait, but he's probably a B+ or an A- in everything. He's just a really good all-around defensive tackle that makes your defensive line better. Really, he's a guy who any of the 32 NFL teams would take. Even if it's not in the first round, he's just going to make that unit better because he just fits in anywhere. He's not a certain – I don't even see a whole lot of weakness, big flaw either. He's just a solid football player.
Absolutely, man. When I was watching him, the one thing that really stood out with him is obviously the length, right? He's 6'5" with very, very long arms, too. He is a powerful player, man. Even though he's only 300 pounds, he pops on first contact, man. There's many times on his tape where he was driving back offensive linemen with his bull rush. He even ragdolled offensive linemen at times, man. He's a really good job of starting with a bull rush and then shedding and getting to a rip move. And offensive linemen are falling flat on their face a lot of the times when I was watching his tape, man. So I'm a huge fan of Rylie Mills. He was tied for 4th among all D tackles in the country with a 13.5% pressure rate. You saw the 15.5% pass rush win rate right there as well. That was 7th in the Power 5, tied for 10th in the Power 5 with 23 run defense stops as well. I agree with you, man. There's really not a lot to dislike in his game right now. But if you had to point out some things that he can improve on, Dalton, what would they be?
I just think I'm trying to figure out the power's good. I'm trying to figure out what is the one single trait that could make him a first round pick, because I don't necessarily know that I see that. He's not a guy that takes over games, right? When we talk about some of these other guys, Mason Graham and Deion Walker, is there a dominant stretch of games where Rylie Mills can take it over? And our next guy here is kind of the guy that does that instead, where and consistent contributors are great, but I just question all around what the ceiling is, right? There's no question to me that Rylie Mills right now would be a day 2 pick. But I don't think he's any lower, and I'm not sure in his current state how he would get any higher than that. Is he going to be so powerful that he's just mauling NFL centers? Is he going to be is he going to show this? I don't see on tape, maybe the metrics say different, but the 92nd percentile athlete, I don't know that I always see that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because he's 6'5" and 300. So for 6'5" and 300, he moves really well, which he does. I'm just trying to figure out, is there just another step to where I can put on a Notre Dame game and go, okay, this guy's dominating. He's the best player on the field, right? Just absolutely nightmare. Some of the top guys in our top 10 are a nightmare to block. You feel me? As opposed to consistent. And it's great, again, to be consistent and workmanlike is awesome. I just want to see this in almost every aspect of his game. Let's take it from an A- to an A+ and see where we can go, because at his size and his length, he could do anything. He just has to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. The big strength of his game is he doesn't really have too many glaring weaknesses, but also he doesn't really have too many unbelievable strengths either, right? He had a 40, his run defense grade this past year was 73.3, which is in the 43rd percentile. I saw sometimes on his run defense that he over-pursued on some plays and kind of played a little out of control at times in run defense, looking for the big play in the backfield. So I think he could get a little bit stronger at the point of attack and maybe just, instead of trying to make a play, a tackle for loss in the backfield, hold his offensive lineman where he is and cut off the running lane for the running back. Sometimes I thought he did too much of trying to make too many plays in the backfield. That's really the only thing, though, man. As a pass rusher, I really like him. I think there's still some moves he could develop, but he's a powerful player for his size, which, again, is not huge. I mean, he looks, You watch his tape and how powerful he is. He looks so much stronger or so much bigger because of how strong he is, but he is a very, very strong player at only 300 pounds right now. So big fan of Rylie Mills, and he checks in at number 10 on our list. Let's go to the guy who's number 3 on our list, though, Dalton, which was Howard Cross III, who was phenomenal this past year and is the highest graded returning defensive tackle in college football.
Yeah, he's the flashy one, right? 6'1", 285. You've got this new prototype of smaller defensive tackles who win with get off and speed and finesse, and Cross is exactly that. Honestly, Max, you watch his play style, and he's 45 pounds smaller, but I think the way he wins is a lot similar to Michigan's Mason Graham. I think it's very, very similar the way he wins, right? Third in pass rush grade last year, top 10 in pressures, still 16th in run D at his size at just 6'1" and 285. But he wins with finesse. He wins with get off. He wins with hand usage. I think, people are constantly going to make the comparisons of, like, say, an Aaron Donald or a Kalijah Cansey, I think is a good one, where it's like clearly pass rush talent off the chain, right? Clearly a bit small, but the things he can do, he's elite at, man. Like, he's a serious, serious problem, especially in the pass rush. His hand usage and his get off, I would put second behind Mason Graham right now. And the only freakier thing with Graham is that he does it at 320. At 285, you feel like, okay, this is what Cross is supposed to be doing and supposed to look like at 285. And the size is the only real question mark. But when you look at his talent and what he can do, especially rushing the passer, this is an elite, elite player. It's flashier, but I think he's also a perfect fit for, like, say, a guy like Rylie Mills next to him, who's big and rugged and takes up all that space, and Notre Dame's got, like, a bunch of big physical players around him. He's like the perfect, just different guy for them to have that I don't think they've always had on their defense, right? Sometimes we've seen them have big, powerful edge rushers, more guys like Mills or linebackers, but, like, he's a different guy than Notre Dame usually has, and I think he fits in so well because he's so different from the rest of their defense.
Yeah, I love him, man. I mentioned before, he's the highest graded returning D tackle in the country. He had a 90.1 grade this past year. The only 2 D tackles in the country who had a higher grade were T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. So the Texas duo, who were both top 40 picks in the NFL draft, and Byron Murphy was a first-round pick in the NFL draft as well. T'Vondre Sweat, and Mason Graham were the only D tackles in the country with top 10 grades as both a pass rusher and as a run defender. He had the second most run defense stops in the country with 29, 5th among Power 5 D tackles as well with 39 pressures. Such an explosive player, such an agile player as well, man. He is a really, really fun player to watch. Yeah, he's undersized, but he makes up for it and then some, honestly, with how dominant he is out there. And he really knows how to win at that size, really, which I think is a great thing for his game. What are the negatives, though, that you see, Dalton, with Howard Cross?
It's just the size thing, right? Like, he's certainly he's an NFL level pass rusher. He's an NFL level athlete. It's just going to be the size. I think very much. I think about Kalijah Cansey and watching a lot of his tape last year with the Bucs, where, look, the game plan a lot of times is going to be run right at him. And the problem with playing against this Notre Dame team is they do have enough size and bulk to stop the run, even working around Cross, so they can have him on the field every snap, right? When it comes to getting to the NFL draft and what he's going to look like up there if he doesn't put on any weight, he's just going to be one of these guys who leans towards the passing game and the finesse and the athleticism and the pass rush. It's just never going to be, in the NFL at least, his forte to be like some elite run stopper, right? Like, especially when teams start getting downhill and gap schemes on him, like, you can see the grading is higher in zone schemes because that's about creating angles and crossing people's faces and doing all that. But teams that run downhill right at him, sometimes the results don't show because the rest of Notre Dame's defense is so good. Rylie Mills and Jack Kaiser and all those guys in the secondary. But when isolated, like when he gets on an NFL field, teams are going to run at him. Just like teams, when they play the Buccaneers, run right at Kalijah Cansey. It's going to be the same thing because he's only 285. Maybe he puts on a few pounds, but that's just never going to be at his size, his forte. He's going to win in the pass rush game. It's just never going to be like in the NFL. He won't be an elite run defender. Right now at Notre Dame, because he's surrounded with so much talent, it works, but his size will always be the obstacle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at right now, Dawn, of the D tackles who played enough snaps to be great to rank in our grading system last year in the NFL, the only one who had a 70-plus run defense grade that was 285 pounds or lighter was Aaron Donald. And that's out of a lot of – there were actually a lot of guys who were 285 or lighter, and Aaron Donald's the only one who had a 70+ run defense grade last year. So that is going to be the area for Howard Cross that you're going to be a little bit worried about, because I think as a pass rusher, he's definitely agile enough and explosive enough to make plays in the backfield. But as a run defender, can he hold up at the point of attack against NFL offensive lines? Now, of course, it's not an NFL ranking right now. This is a college ranking, and he is still a dominant player in college. But that is going to be one of the big negatives for him going into the NFL, is he going to be big enough to hold up, or will he be a DPR? Will he be a designated pass rusher for an NFL defense, which I think he will thrive even if he is in that role. Also, he's a 6-year player as well. He's definitely an older player. He's taken some time to get to this level, obviously, but he's at this level right now, which is why he checks in at number 3 of our list of the top 10 returning D tackles in the country. Notre Dame with the second best defensive tackle duo in college football heading into the 2024 season.